Hey everyone, welcome back to the We Talk Sports podcast. As always, I am your host, Corey Atanasoff, joined by co-host Gerald Mendoza. It has been a while. It's been a long December, and we decided to take a small little hiatus, but we should be getting back on schedule starting now. It's a little off podcast, but we had to jump in because week 17 just wrapped up. But before we get into that, Gerald, I believe you have something that you want to start talking about on the Real podcast, the food
Yes,
podcast.
absolutely. Now, as anybody would know, we definitely enjoy our good cultured food on this podcast. One of our best and most favorable drinks of choices that is non-alcoholic has got to be Mountain Dew. Yep, Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew. Love it.
So
Got to do the do.
you got to do the dew. And earlier this year, not too long ago, Mountain Dew, it looked like they announced that they were going to be potentially, and it's looking more and more certain, potentially introducing a new permanent flavor to their lineup. Now, Corey doesn't know what it is. I've already
I
read
don't
what
know.
it is. I want to see what Corey has to say.
Is it
And
Doritos?
it's not Doritos. Sorry.
Rats.
And it says, and I quote from Mashed, it looks like National Soda brand Mountain Dew will be debuting a new flavor in early 2021. That's a good thing.
That's now.
That's very now. That has soda fans everywhere excited. In a promotional materials leaked on the Reddit message board for Mountain Dew, the company seems to be gearing up to release an all new flavor named Major Melon.
Oh, here's the thing: is it could either be really, really good or it could go horribly wrong. In my opinion, I hate watermelon soda. I hate watermelon flavored anything because it doesn't taste like watermelon. But if they're going for like the Japanese melon soda type flavor, then that is my favorite.
Yeah,
Wow, I'm excited for that.
I think that would be really good too. Imagine that in a summer, like just
Oh yeah, imagine that, but like a Taco Bell freeze.
okay. It is actually no. I'm sorry. Hold on. I just read a little further.
Oh,
It says
are you gonna break my heart and tell me it's
alongside
watermelon?
alongside text that proclaims and I quote new flavor invasion watermelon dew
Oh,
and a watermelon cartoon soldier.
I've been gunned down.
He was so close.
Man, I li- I'm
Honest,
r- right now. I'm living in Spain, but without the S.
from Barcelona.
I'm in pain. I'm in Barcelona. That ruined my mood, man. I was riding a high right there, and then all of a sudden,
Sorry, I
watermelon.
gotta give it to you straight, man. You can't
Can't give
can't
it
lie
any
to
other
me.
way. Well, fortunately, I have better news than that, and it is that both of our teams made the NFL playoffs in a twist that nobody expected. Actually, every single one of my family's teams that we all root for. I'm a Colts fan. My mom's a Bills fan. My brother's a Ravens fan, and my mom, or no, not my mom. My dad is a Bucks fan, except for my stepdad, who's a Cowboys fan. But always next year, I suppose. But we're all in. Unfortunately, the way that everybody got into the playoffs was very messy, and we'll talk about that a little later regarding your Washington football team getting in. But
Yeah.
how are you feeling about your team's matchup?
Okay. So since we're technically the fourth seed, because
You won the division.
we won the division with a 7-9 record that I called earlier this year.
The
It
team
is on
seated,
video.
yeah, and the team seated below you that you will be going up against is 11-5.
You gotta love the Shield, man. I mean, it
Love
just
it.
works out perfectly, especially for this first year where they're introducing this this super wild card Saturday,
Oh yeah. Oh
like a double triple headers for a weekend.
yeah, Saturday and Sunday, baby.
It's gonna be a lot of football.
So how are you feeling about your matchup, though? How do you think that the football team could fare against the
Well,
Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
as you have always said, our spiritual favorite team for this channel is always going to be the Tampa Bay Bucks,
It has
simply
to be.
because of the pirate ship.
And because of the frickin' creamsicle uniforms.
That's why we picked orange and black.
And the Buccaneer Bruce on the side of their old helmet.
Yeah.
That's why we're orange and black, man.
It's going to be
best color.
Buccaneer Brady soon enough, and you know it.
Oh, I'm sure that there's already like art about that out.
Yeah.
Like,
but
you know, there's Tampa Bay, Tampa Brady, everything.
In any case, that is a formidable opponent, an 11-5 team, and an incredible, journey for what everyone expected to be. Well, actually, there weren't many expectations, high expectations for Tom Brady. There were more curious inquisitions about how he would do without Bill Belichick at the helm. But he has clearly proven that even though Bill Belichick is a brilliant coach, Tom Brady was the one who basically was the key to that much success in New England. And Bruce Arians is also a really good coach, but he works a lot better with Tom Brady. So this is just, good for him. So now our matchup against him is interesting because I think it's going to be closer than anyone, or at least what an average sports fan would consider to be in the realm of possibility. I honestly think it's going to be a well-contested matchup. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be within 1 to 1.5 scores at most. At most, honestly. I think it could be a field goals difference.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's solid, like, thinking of it, but I want to just take a step back there and look at what you were saying about Tom Brady. And I've been saying this since we started podcasting and since the news came out that Tom Brady was headed to Tampa Bay. And I've said this since the beginning, that this year would be an sort of monument to who needed who more. Did Bill Belichick need Tom Brady, or did Tom Brady need Bill Belichick? And it seems clear now that Bill Belichick needed Tom Brady. Tom Brady is 11-5. He is transcendent, throwing to Mike Evans, the first player in NFL history to catch, what was it, like 1,000 yards in each of their first 7 seasons. Something ridiculous. And Tom Brady is excellent. He's playing football that you would expect out of a 23-year-old. Like in college, like one of these guys just slinging it. Tom Brady's doing that. And I compare that to the Michael and Phil Jackson. When Michael went to Washington, we had an opportunity to see, did Michael need Phil or did Phil need Michael? And in that case, Michael needed Phil. Michael before Phil didn't really see much success when it came to winning championships. Michael after Phil had no success winning anything. And Michael with Phil got 6 rings. Phil without Michael ended up getting a 3-peat with Kobe. And the rest is history. Now, the New York Knicks is a little bit of a different thing there.
And he also ended up getting the first
Lamar Odom, who was on crack. But
you can't leave it out. But
in that case, Michael needed Phil. And in this case, Bill needed Tom. And Tom Brady is going out here, and we're going to see playoff Brady, and the football team needs to be ready for it. They've got Chase Young, who's going to present an excellent threat to Tom Brady's safety. Yeah. He's going to most likely maul through that line, and he's going to show why he's a contender for Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, honestly, he's incredible.
And I think that's going to work a lot to our advantage because it's not just Chase Young on the defense that's doing an incredible job, even though he's very clearly the leader of that defense. And honestly, he is the face of the franchise right now.
Absolutely.
Well, he should be. He has earned that right to be the leader of that team. But he's leading a defense that is incredible and outperforming what anybody thought they were going to be able to do this year. And with a quarterback that, even though still technically pretty mobile, is not the freshest set of legs on the field that they could be going up against. And they can take advantage of someone like that if they can break the line. And I think Chase Young and the defense has a chance to do that and affect the game significantly. And on the offensive side, with Alex Smith back at being quarterback, he's still a very dependable guy. Also not that mobile.
Right.
But he can still get things done. The running game is still it's inconsistent, but it does get the job done when it needs to get done for the most part. And also, our receivers, Terry McLaurin, as well as our tight end, I forgot, Logan Thomas, have been breakout players on the offense this year who have just been incredibly good athletic targets for this team. And I think, honestly, there is a really good chance. This is not a throwaway game where I thought, oh, okay, we got to the playoffs and we're going to lose in our first game again. No, I think this is an excellent opportunity for this team to show up and say, hey, we made it here for a reason. And I think they can really show face and be proud of what they do as the game progresses, as, they play against Tom Brady. But as you said, there's one phrase that always sticks out when you're facing Tom Brady.
Yep.
You can't
count out touchdown Tom. And I think, it's going to be really interesting for this matchup. We're just going to go through this and then put something else in the conversation before we come back to playoffs. But we have such a young team in the Washington football team. It's almost like they rebranded before, like in the middle of the season. But their players are young. And aside from Chris Godwin and Ronald Jones Jr., and I guess even Leonard Fournette, the Buccaneers don't really have a whole lot of youth to them. I mean, you look at Antonio Brown, Tom Brady, LaShawn McCoy, Mike Evans is he's in his 7th year. Gronk, you've got guys who are vets, and it'll be really interesting to see if the young guns in the Washington football team can come out and just hammer it and beat them on energy, not just by knowing the format and knowing the playoffs. We'll have to see if they act like they've been there before or if they just sit down and act like a 7-9 team.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. We're going to have to see.
But again, I really think it's going to be a good football game overall. I think
I agree with you.
It's going to be a good football game to watch, and I think it's going to work out, honestly. I really do. And I think I'm not going to be necessarily ashamed of this team, even though you got to be ashamed of this division, because
absolutely NFC least.
Let's be absolutely honest. That is a horrendous piece of crap, division that they're in. I mean, it's a pile of horseshit.
It's a dumpster fire. It's terrible. Yeah.
It is, as I have said before about other teams, it is the NFL's perennial swine flu.
Well, it used to be the NFC beast, but now it has transformed from a B to an L. So, fittingly, actually. So right now, it is official. The Heisman ceremony has started for the Heisman Trophy winner. Right now, we have the 4 finalists: Alabama quarterback Mac Jones and Alabama receiver Devonta Smith, joined Florida quarterback Kyle Trask and Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson as the 4 finalists. What is your pick for this?
Ooh, I mean, I'll be honest. My head is telling me that because Trevor Lawrence didn't win last year, that he's gonna get it this year, even though he lost this previous
last week. Yep.
Yeah, this previous game in the playoff. But he is an astounding quarterback. He is.
Well, oh, good. Sorry.
He's got to be someone who, he's going to go most likely first pick, I think. Honestly, I don't think there's another pick to take first than him. The Jaguars can really use a quarterback like him. And we'll put a pin in the Jaguars in just a second. I want to return to it. But I have a gut feeling, honestly, that it's going to go to Devonta Smith. Or Devonta Smith.
Yep. I'm thinking the same thing when it comes out in terms of just production on the field. Devonta Smith was a game changer for Alabama. That's why they are undefeated. But you could also attribute it to Mac Jones behind center or under center. I think that it really comes down to the two of the quarterbacks. And no disrespect to Trask, but I don't think that he is the caliber that they're looking at. I look at a team that's 11-0. I look at a team that's 10-1, and these guys have played basically a regular season of football in Mac Jones and Trevor Lawrence. And, Florida's a 3-loss team. So Kyle Trask, I don't even think is in the conversation. Even though he is top 4, I don't think he's in this conversation. And normally it goes to quarterbacks. It's either a quarterback or a running back wins it. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to give my vote to Mac Jones, although I think Trevor Lawrence will come out with it. I think Mac Jones should win. And that's because there is something that Clemson has that Alabama doesn't. And it's losses.
I get that.
They lost to Notre Dame earlier in the season, and they just lost to Ohio State coming into this. So I know it's playoff and it doesn't count against their record, but that's a 2-loss team heading out of January. And Alabama is sitting pretty at 12-0.
Yeah, and if history has shown us something, it's usually it's one of the teams in a national championship. It's usually one of their players that they pick.
Absolutely. It's like the MVP. You're not going to give MVP to a guy who missed the playoffs. He's not valuable.
All right. That's exactly right. Gosh, I just had a flashback of the old BCS era.
Oh, man. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. But moving on, I do want to put this little note in about what I said about Jacksonville potentially picking Trevor Lawrence as the first overall pick. They are trying, I think there's a consideration, some minor rumors that I want to get your hopes up, some minor rumors, or get your hopes down, depending how you look at it, that Urban Meyer is somewhat interested in becoming a head football coach for the NFL, and one of those destinations for a potential landing spot is the Jacksonville. So imagine a Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence as its quarterback and Urban Meyer as its coach.
Yeah, I mean, that could be dangerous, but there's also, Jacksonville was bad at 2 things this season, offense and defense. And drafting a quarterback first overall is not going to fix your team. I can't remember the last time that a quarterback came in and turned the entire team around, because you need that line. It's like Cincinnati. They got Joe Burrow and they did not have a line. Joe Burrow at LSU would have 8 seconds in the pocket to sit around and wait for his receivers to get open. And in Cincinnati, the line just disappeared after a second. People just ate them up. It's the NFL. Welcome to the league. Well, I think Jacksonville's going to struggle because Trevor Lawrence has such a fantastic and big line at Clemson. I think he's going to struggle making the transition, but I do think he is going to be an exceptional talent. But Jacksonville needs to build big on their offensive line if they want to see any immediate results.
But you can make the trades with that. You can make the trades with that. You can pick up a couple linemen or one pretty good center or tackle in the draft, maybe 2, and then you could supplement everything around that by, again, a new coach can retrain and fix things better with his personnel that he would bring in, because that's the way coaching works. You bring in your personnel. I think that could work as well. That can improve the situation. Good draft picks can improve the situation in maybe potentially 2nd and 3rd round, if that's what you want to go for. This doesn't look like a receivers draft this year. So
no, not particularly.
This could be something, a draft where you can build your foundation again, your offensive line, honestly. And then also making trades throughout the season. I mean, Jacksonville has, I don't know, how much they have to trade, but you can make some moves around and just find the right person, the right people to fit in a couple of the holes that you have and improve overall. I mean, I think it's very possible, though I don't think there's been a single college football quarterback that's been just automatically good out of the gate. It takes
Andrew Luck.
You know what? You're right, Andrew.
Yeah. There's that.
I was about to say Andrew Luck, Captain Andrew.
Yeah. So when I'm looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars, their cap space, and it looks like they have about $71 million in cap coming into 2021. So their active contracts, they have $126 million on the books, and they have almost $200 million adjusted salary cap. So they have a lot of money to give out. So
that's what I mean. You can.
They can have a lot. They're going to make a splash in free agency if they pick up Trevor Lawrence. They're going to pick up a lot of linemen because it all starts with the line, and that is something that Indianapolis has always done, and that's why we're a consistent playoff team. That is something that that's something that New England had always done when they had Brady. It's something that you look out west And the Seahawks have always done under Russell Wilson. And the big lines bring big quarterbacks. Ben Roethlisberger never had to run. Peyton Manning never had to run. They're just good. They had a line and they could go with it.
Phillip Rivers, when he was in San Diego, too, had an excellent line.
Exactly. They had the best offense and then the worst special teams, and that cost them more than anything. So there's a very interesting SB Nation documentary on that. It's about 40 minutes long about how the Chargers lost in that season in the playoffs because their special teams unit sucked so badly. But coming on back to, in case the Heisman gets announced, we will announce that live on the podcast. Right. But I want to go back and circle around back to the playoffs. So right now, in the AFC, Kansas City gets a bye, and in the NFC, Green Bay gets a bye because they're both the 1 seeds. We're going to see Buffalo and Indianapolis play, which I'll talk about my feelings on that in a couple minutes.
Right, yeah.
Pittsburgh will go up against Cleveland, a good division matchup, and then Tennessee goes up against Baltimore, a rematch of last year's playoff showdown where the Ravens just got trounced.
Yeah.
Then in the NFC, we're going to see New Orleans go up against Chicago, which I think most people have a general idea of how that's going to go. Seattle versus the Rams, and the Washington football team versus Tampa, as we have already stated. I am afraid for the first round. The Indianapolis Colts have looked like a really, really good team in the later half of the season, and Phillip Rivers has been electric. However, we have to go up against Josh Allen, who I realistically think is a top 3 quarterback in the game today. I think Aaron Rodgers is fascinating. I might put Patrick Mahomes as number 2 and then Josh Allen as number 3. But I even think the Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen thing is close. I think it's a lot closer than people think. Josh Allen he's phenomenal. He can run, he can think, he can throw. He does whatever you need him to.
I think he would have been good regardless of who he had on his team this year. But man, that acquisition of Stephon Diggs.
Oh,
that's what made us splat. That's what really made the perfect adjustment in that team for them to just explode. As you know, they were just on it.
Well,
both of them were. I mean, Stephon Diggs has almost always been good. I'm surprised, honestly. I'm surprised. You know why?
I don't know why Minnesota let him go. Yeah,
let him go. I would keep him and sell Kirk Cousins.
Well, they also made the mistake of giving Kirk Cousins that massive salary or that massive contract, so they can't really get rid of him.
I know the guaranteed money and all that.
Right. But their acquisition of Stephon Diggs and then just building up a consistently good offensive line and just defensive secondary. There's a reason why they're tied for the second best record in the NFL. But the Buffalo is scary. We have a very good defense, but we've been not very good in the last couple of weeks. We managed to beat Green Bay, but I don't know how well we're going to fare up against Buffalo. It's going to be a high-scoring affair, I'll tell you that. I think that whatever the over-under is, you take that over.
Right, exactly. And I think a lot of the AFC is going to be a lot of high-scoring affair, and I think the NFC is going to be more of the lower side. I don't know what it is. Like the AFC seems more focused on a scoring type of offense-driven game. The NFC seems more willing to bank on their defenses, stopping people and just getting the points where they can. Man, what else is it? What is the the Browns and the Steelers.
And the Steelers. Oh.
The Steelers are the worst, division winners that win 11-0 that I've ever seen.
Well, and I have I agree also. They are the worst 11 undefeated team that I've ever seen in my life. And I don't think I've ever seen this in all of my watching football. If you're watching this and you can think of an instance, please leave it in the chat or put it in the comments because I'm interested. I don't think I've ever seen a team play the same team in back-to-back weeks. Because the Browns just beat the Steelers on Sunday, and now they're going up against them on Sunday. So this will be very, very interesting. The only thing that changes is the location of it. They played last game in Cleveland, and they will play this one at Heinz Field
In Pittsburgh.
in Pittsburgh. But that's going to be interesting because the Steelers are favored by 6 points going into it.
But that's home field advantage.
Home field advantage gives them 3, so they're really, if it were a neutral ground, they're favored by a field goal. And I don't know why bookies still give 3 points for home field advantage. Maybe it's weather, but Cleveland is also a snowstorm.
I was about to say, I'm like, maybe because you're just more familiar with being in a place where you know it's not your home, just has a psychological effect, I guess.
Yeah,
even
but
without the fans, but still,
that's going to be an interesting game.
it is going to be an interesting game. But also, I don't know how much of this situation you know about, but head coach of the Cleveland Browns, I forgot his name. Do you know? Do you remember?
Not aware.
Hold on, Browns head coach. Point is him, and I believe,
Stefanski?
yeah, Kevin Stefanski. Him and 9 other team members and staff altogether have tested positive.
Oh, just on Saturday. On Saturday, they didn't know whether the game was going to be played or not because the Browns had locked down their facilities for 3 straight days.
Yeah. And now they're under lockdown again because apparently more people on the team, more team personnel, have tested positive for COVID-19. I don't know how much that's going to affect their ability to practice and prepare for this game, and I know that seems rather secondary. I mean, all things aside, may they live for real, because
right, yeah,
it's an insane, disease. But thinking about it from the sports perspective, that is a huge, huge effect on not only physically what you're going to be able to do or not, because it's also an offensive lineman that got infected and a couple of other players. And if anybody knows anything about this disease, it will knock you to the ground, and it will affect you physically in ways you did not even consider. And not only that, mentally and morally, this is a down. Like this is a punch in the gut for the organization. They finally, after I don't know how many years, since 2002, I believe, was the last time that the Cleveland Browns made the playoffs. It's been that long that they've been waiting. How many quarterbacks have they gone through? How many years of heartbreak have they gone through? They've went 0-16 just a few years back, and to see the improvement finally
they went 1-31 in consecutive seasons.
And they finally get there. They fight and they win, and they're good. I'm starting to really like the way Baker Mayfield plays. I really do.
I agree.
I think he's pleasantly surprised me that I thought he was going to be another, not just Cleveland bust, but another college high runner bust. But he is finally, he's proven himself to be NFL quality, and he has carried his team to the playoffs. And all of that gets deflated as soon as you realize they are going through one of the hardest things that a team can go through at this moment. And now it's going to affect the way they approach the game. It's going to affect the way they prepare for the game. It's going to affect the play calling for the game. It's going to affect all these different things. And and you won't even have your whole team there to be able to support you. And it's just going to be a complete mind bender. But with all that being said, I still think they're going to win, because I cannot see myself having confidence in the Steelers at this point in the season.
I agree. They're on a tank. They're on a skid. They're falling out of the sky and need a trampoline to stop them. But that doesn't exist because they're not playing in the NFC right now. So when it comes to this, according to the NFL rules, if you test positive, you have to sit out at least 10 days. My question, though, is we have these, 9 tests positive in the organization?
10 total, including the head coach, alignment. I don't know who else.
Right. So with that, what if there's more? Like, what happens? This is unprecedented. It's not like the flu where you get the flu and it's like, oh, yeah, Michael had his flu game, which seems really irresponsible now.
Yeah, now that we think about it.
Yeah.
But
imagine Rudy Gobert's COVID game.
Yeah.
Doesn't hit the same.
Not COVID game, COVID press conference.
Oh my God, Rudy Gobert, $200 million
for that piece. I'm surprised he's still in the league to begin
for a man named after a tube of Go-Gurt.
And okay, so I don't know what the NFL is going to do, because if the NFL has shown us anything this season about how they deal with these COVID situations, is that they're absolutely batshit crazy and they don't know what they're doing. They're figuring things out on the fly, which is annoying considering they are the league that had the most money and time
Yep.
to
Yep.
prepare for every single one of these situations, and they left it all to last minute and messed it up in the end. It makes no sense.
Even look,
How
well,
inept
it's
they
Roger
handled the
Goodell.
situation. It is Roger
I,
Goodell.
I
He
agree.
did
The
not handle
NBA,
the situation.
the NBA hit right in the middle of the season, right as it's coming down to the end. They canceled all games immediately. They immediately made a plan. Hey, we're going to have a bubble, and we're going to invite teams who could actually make the playoffs. The only problem with the bubble was that the Suns went undefeated and still missed out on the playoffs. But that's just how the game works. The other teams that needed to do better, all of them did. That was the only problem with the bubble. It worked perfectly. MLB, right as the season's about to come up, canceled the season. They wait, and they took their good, sweet time formulating this plan, but they had a 60-game season. They played it. They had an entire postseason, and there were only about 3 teams that ever tested positive. There was the Cardinals, the Marlins, and then some other. I think the Marlins did it twice.
Yeah, probably.
But there wasn't a whole lot. And then NFL, it's every week people are testing positive. I understand you have bigger rosters.
And
But-
more high contact.
Right. But at the same time, they've just been stalling. The entire time they've been like, oh, there's no problem. We're just going to, not have fans. But some games will. We're going to, exercise regular testing. But we're not.
The stupidity of it is some of their decisions. Like they said initially, they were going to say, well, we're not going to allow the teams to shake hands or hug or get together after the game.
Yeah.
They're just going to go straight to the locker room. I'm like, after playing a 60-minute full contact, sweat-driven,
Yeah.
like,
Well,
body
3 hours.
producing game,
Yeah.
for 3 hours. I'm like, and then at the end is when you can catch it. No, and then also fining the coaches, which honestly I believe, I think it sent a very stern message at the beginning of the season when they had 2 or 3 of those coaches that didn't put on their mask the whole time or didn't do it properly, and then they fined them.
But here's my problem with that. Here's my problem with that. The players are not wearing masks, right? They are going head to head, holding each other this close, breathing heavily, and they don't have to wear masks. I understand it might inhibit, their breathing or whatever, but a coach doesn't wear a mask, just standing on the sidelines, and he gets fined $500,000. He's just sitting there breathing regularly, $500,000. I understand the message, but it's kind of silly when you think about it, right? Like, I know they want to reduce everything they can, but you're also putting a full contact sport with people getting in fights and putting their helmets right, their face masks right against each other.
And shouting at each other.
And yelling at each other and spitting on the ground and everything. Like, come on, do something.
I mean, do something right, really.
Yeah.
That's what it is you got to do something right. And it's just, I said it, and I still believe it's true. They waited to the last minute, and then they realized, oh, this thing didn't go away like we thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have to deal with it when they should have been dealing with it. It wouldn't have cost them that much more to have an actual plan with that much time and money at their disposal. When they found out that they would have to probably adjust something. Look, they were the last league to act on anything. Even during player meetings and team meetings and all that. I was just like, he's like, oh, okay, we won't have the player team meetings now. 2 days after all other leagues in the country and maybe even around the world decided, yeah, we have to stop.
Well, it was around the world because you remember all the soccer leagues just shut down.
Yeah, EPL, Bundesliga,
Champions League One.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, it was everything, and it with reason because it makes sense.
Yeah,
and it just was insane to me that the NFL fumbled the bag again, and this time it is with something so much more important, and then obviously showing favoritism throughout the season. No more representative of that than the week that the Ravens were supposed to play the Steelers. And got postponed, what is it, 3 or 4 times?
3 times.
3 times postponement, and said we're going to wait for them to get their players back. And then telling the Broncos.
They have no quarterback.
They're like, you're still going to play?
Sucks. Yeah. Well, we spent a lot of time talking about the NFL and this, but I want to get more micro on it and something that you were directly impacted by in Week 17, and it's what's happening with the NFC East, because it came down to that playoff spot, and the only opportunity that any of these, what was it, like 4-11, 5-10, 6-9 teams going into this week, the only spot that they could get would be the 4 seed. Now, anybody who's watching this, run them through just what had to happen for your team to get in.
Okay. Well, technically,
you just had to win.
Technically for the majority of the season, because by a technicality, the Washington football team was in the lead. They controlled their own destiny on the last day and said if they win, they're in, and that's the case. And that's exactly what it was on the last game of the regular game of the season, Sunday Night Football. But for, I believe it was the Giants, there was something that outlined it. If I can find it real quick, but there was definitely a situation where they would have been able to get in because they swept the Washington football team in the regular season. They beat them both times, and that would have given them a tie. But the tiebreaker at that moment would have given them the division championship or division spot. And it says, okay, during Week 17 for the New York Football Giants, they would have clinched the NFC East if they had won against the Cowboys, which they did, and if Washington lost.
Now that's where it gets really interesting, because our co-host, who is absent for this episode right here,
still recovering, I think.
Still recovering. He was talking a lot of chirp, and it all came down to the Eagles. And Doug Peterson has already, blown up the locker room with, Carson Wentz doing that, and, Zach, or you have Ertz and everybody around the team, and he's, not doing very well with that. And then it comes down to a 3-point game in the fourth quarter, and Doug Peterson benches their starting quarterback, Jalen Hurts.
And puts in not Carson Wentz, because he was inactive for the game, but I forget his first name, but his last name was Sudfeld, and he will live on in Washington football team lore as the savior of the playoff spot, basically, because his first snap was an interception. And to be fair, the Washington football team doing their best, how do I say
NFC East representation.
Yeah, best NFC East representation decided that on their first play after the interception would throw an interception. I went from being on cloud 9 to in the dumps again. I'm just like, oh no.
To living in the fifth circle of hell.
Again. And I was just like, oh man. And then they get the ball back. And then Sudfeld fumbles it off the snap again. And oh my goodness, I was.
Well, and so Miles Sanders, their running back for the Philadelphia Eagles and Penn State alum, he said that nobody was happy with the quarterback change, nobody on the team, which only makes the locker room environment worse. So the Eagles they already knew that they couldn't possibly make the playoffs because of their record. Then it almost seems as if Peterson was tanking to get a higher draft spot, or to get a better draft spot.
Right, because it was the difference between third and sixth.
Something like that. But he loses this game, and the team wanted to win. So not only did, he bring shame to the organization and create a locker room fire, but he also, gypped the New York Football Giants out of a playoff spot and gifted it to the Washington football team. So you've got to be happy about that one. PJ has to be very upset and heartbroken.
I said this as a Washington football team fan. I was happy. We won the division. We're in the playoffs, and and I'm actually more confident in this team again, and I'm thankful to Doug Peterson for gifting us that, because we were about to sink ourselves again, but we reminded ourselves this is the NFC East. You're not gonna mess me up. I'm gonna mess myself up and the team to the north. But as a sports fan in general, that's got to be one of the stupidest decisions I've ever seen. Oh my
I
goodness.
agree.
You could see the just the morale in the out of Jalen Hurts and the team and everyone standing on the sidelines, the starters who didn't end up playing that game, everyone who wanted to actually prove to themselves that they could win that game, and then all of a sudden Doug Peterson decides to put Sudfeld in, and you see those 2 interceptions happen, and then you're just sitting there. And if I'm just a regular sports fan watching Sunday Night Football because it's the last regular football game of the season, last football game of the regular season, and I see that mess happen and see what happened, and Chris Collinsworth decided to call him out, and I'm glad he did, because it was worth being called out for.
Good old
It
CC.
it was an absolute mess that that had occurred, and now along with what Doug Peterson did, thinking about what else is going on, the ownership is going to take a look at Doug Peterson, and I think they're going to let him go because he's just not handled either one of those situations well. And the situation with Carson Wentz, where he says he either wants to be the starter or he wants to get traded, put the team in a hard position already, and Coach Peterson. But if you weren't trying to win the game, you should have just put Carson Wentz in to start the game to appease anything. That way he could still call himself a starter, and you can reevaluate things in the offseason and try to win, and just let the course of action take its place. But instead, you put in Jalen Hurts, which signals to the players at the beginning of the game, oh, we're going to try to win this game, and we're going to try to put this rookie as our new team leader, because he's gonna take us places in the future, more than Carson Wentz has, and and that's fine. And now they're fighting for the game, and then in the middle of the game, you decide to take that away from them and sit your starter down, not for Carson Wentz, but for another quarterback who severely, just mauled your chances or your hopes of putting up your face as an organization, as a team, and just you threw it to the wind and you messed with everything, and it's an absolute mess. I think Peterson's out, and I don't know if Peterson's out. I think Wentz might be out as well if he sticks to his demands.
Well, and I'm going to say this that I don't say about many players. I say it about Kwame Brown because Stephen A. Smith does, and I agree. Nate Sudfeld is a bona fide scrub. That is can't wash his drawers near an NFL facility because, nobody wants him there. He's a third stringer who has no reason touching a football on that team. You have Carson Wentz, who has Super Bowl experience and a ring. You have Jalen Hurts, who was electric in college. And then Nate Sudfeld. But Doug Peterson's going to put his pride and everything that he wants to do in front of any team chances of winning or any chance of retaining Carson Wentz. But he had to start Jalen Hurts, and then when the game got close, pulled him so that they could lose. So I agree with you. I don't think Doug Peterson's sticking around.
And that's not to diminish the fact that Washington had its own quarterback problems as the year went
on.
on.
Yep. Go ahead and talk about that.
Okay. Listen, I personally was definitely a big fan of Dwayne Haskins, and even though they let him go, I really think they should have just kept him, even as a third string, honestly. You need to give these quarterbacks time to develop and give them the snaps and give them the practice that they need, and work them into becoming an NFL quarterback, because that doesn't happen automatically out of college. It just doesn't. It takes time. It takes practice. It takes effort. But honestly, with the amount of trouble that was going on with Dwayne Haskins, with his insubordination, with his unwillingness to humble himself after losses and accept it as is, instead of the first time he got benched was because he was bragging about his stats after a loss. And if there's one thing Ron Rivera I'm happy about that he does, he doesn't take anything from anyone. He's going to let you know. He's like, yeah, you're doing this way, And that's what I was hired for, and I was given the ability to do that, and I am going to make that decision. Listen, he is the one that made that decision about letting Dwayne Haskins go, not the GM, not the ownership, because that is the trust in Ron Rivera uh, that Dan Snyder and our new GM and our new team president all have, because they have to have it, because he is that good of a coach and a team manager. And I think in the long run it's going to be better, even though I think they should have kept him. But I think Ron Rivera saw that this was a potential locker room cancer that was not going to let this team thrive anywhere in the future, because he apparently just didn't show any signs of maturity or improvement. And then after that, he seemed to be declining in his ability to play the game instead of improving as he got more starts and snaps. And it just wasn't going to work. So he decided to get rid of him. And for one of the games after he got rid of Dwayne Haskins and Alex Smith still wasn't back yet after his injury, Taylor Heineke was the starter. But for right now, there's 4 quarterbacks on the Washington football team right now. It's Alex Smith, Taylor Heineke, Kyle Allen, and Steven Montez. And
earlier today, Ron Rivera expressed how willing he would be to run a quarterback carousel inside the team for their playoff matchup against the greatest quarterback of all time.
I mean, you pull out all the stops when you get the chance, I guess, but that does not fill me with confidence. Stick to Alex Smith and just protect him. How about you do that instead of, running people around? But in any case, there are still people thinking that with this new open space and with the age of Alex Smith and the skill level of all the other quarterbacks in question, people are trying to think what could be a future move that the Washington football team can make in terms of who could be their next quarterback.
Could get Cam Newton.
And it could be Cam Newton. I mean, they almost went for him after he won the not the Heisman. I'm sorry. Did he win the Heisman?
Yes. Cam Newton won the Heisman.
And the national championship, right?
He did.
He won it with Auburn, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so it could be Cam Newton. There's a couple of other suggestions that I've seen floating around in there.
Well, Cam Newton would work especially well because he's already been with Ron Rivera and he even made it to a Super Bowl.
But I think at the end, there's a reason Ron Rivera got rid of Cam Newton.
I agree.
As well. I think it's almost the same. It's just a bigger, more grown-up version of Dwayne Haskins with a few more skills that he doesn't want to deal with.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, you look at Cam Newton and look at his accolades: MVP, Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, 3-time Pro Bowler, Offensive Player of the Year, twice BCS National Champion, and a Heisman.
But he already had that in Carolina. That's the thing. And after all of that, it still wasn't enough for Ron Rivera to keep him.
Yeah.
And it's basically the same organization because Jack Del Rio is the defensive coordinator. And look, he's done a good job. But it's gonna be putting a piece that you got rid of for a reason back into the puzzle, and it's not gonna work. I don't think Cam Newton would work. I don't think some of these other suggestions would work.
The problem with the football team is it literally came out a week ago. Diana Rossini on ESPN reported saying that she'll never forget the story of literal Washington at the time, the Redskins coaches pleading to ownership not to draft Dwayne Haskins, and one of the coaches saying he was literally about to throw up in the war room because of how stubborn Dan Snyder was about drafting Haskins. None of the coaches wanted him. And so now he gets here, and then he shows the organization, he shows ownership exactly why everybody didn't want to draft him, and now he's gone. The number one problem coming for the football team is ownership. And we've been talking about that since week 1 of the podcast, since day 1 of the podcast, since before that.
I got hopeful.
With all the allegations, you thought
with
that
the investigations
would be
and
gone.
Allegations and everything, I thought the NFL would just say sell the team. But
yeah, you thought
they
would Donald Sterling it.
40% of the ownership, because Dan Snyder owns the majority stake, but he's not the whole owner. 40% of the ownership group wants to get together and sell all their stock in the team.
Yeah. They want a coup.
That's how bad it is
in
Washington. And it's been like
in
that
Landover.
For years. I'm sorry, in Alexandria.
In Alec, yeah.
There you go.
That's how it is in Maryland.
There you go. But and I think these are deep rooted issues, and I appreciate that Ron Rivera has done an incredible amount of work to just basically clean house and reset.
Yep.
And and the results I think are starting to show a little bit, helped by the fact that they're in the NFC East, but they're starting to show, and I think there's good potential for great improvements with this team. However, a quarterback has to be part of that equation, and our luck with quarterbacks is not good. And this a fan decided to put a list of 3 who they think would be the best possible options for them for trading to trade to get these quarterbacks. I'll put a link in the description once it's after this is up, just so you could get a good look at it. But it's number 3. Take a guess.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if you have Cap, but Carson Wentz.
It's not Carson Wentz. We've tried drafting a quarterback or taking a quarterback from Philly before, yeah, and then we ended up with Rex Grossman as our starter.
Sexy Rexy, dude, hit him right between the eyes. The OGs know about Sexy Rexy.
Gunslinger.
Just are these just 3 players to draft or 3 players to trade for or what?
Trade for. They're
trade for.
They're in the league. They are NFL quarterbacks.
I'm gonna
NFL quarterbacks.
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
It's not Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Oh, wow.
I'd like that suggestion.
Yeah. Jacoby Brissett, maybe.
Not Jacoby
Brissett.
Or
Jameis Winston. He's a backup.
No, not him either.
Matt Stafford.
Matt Stafford is one of them.
Okay.
Matt Stafford from the Detroit Lions. It says this would be the unluckiest of all options, but it's still an option.
I like Matt Stafford, dude. Matt Stafford is a great quarterback.
I think he's a great quarterback too. I honestly think he's been just run under the ringer in Detroit. There's almost no help for him at all. Especially
I absolutely agree.
Especially after Megatron left, it wasn't going to get better, and they didn't show any effort to put him in. I'm surprised. I mean, he got his contract. That's why he's still there. But I'm surprised that he didn't foresee this coming.
Yeah. I think another quarterback to trade for on that list might have been Sam Darnold because the Jets are looking to get away from him. Would he be on there?
I don't think he has that stock. Here's another one.
Okay.
Another one who I truly hate the suggestion. Matt Ryan.
Oh, no, I like that. That would be a good fit.
I'm sorry, but that's not a long-term solution.
Well, it's not, but
that's my thing. I'm trying to think about a long-term, like at least a medium length term solution for this team instead of just keep on picking up another Alex Smith.
Yeah, I agree. But Matt Ryan is phenomenal.
And then rinse, wash, like a shampoo, rinse it, repeat it again in 3 more years. Because he's older, he's going to get hurt. He doesn't have the best line. He has the experience, yes, and he's a pretty good quarterback, but it's just not going to work in this system. And even though Ron Rivera likes more classic style quarterbacks anyway, he likes Alex Smith. I'm sure he would love Matt Ryan as well. But it's just that's not a long-term solution.
I'm gonna take one more guess at the last name on here.
All right.
I'm gonna say Nick Foles from the Bears.
It's not Nick Foles.
Okay. Well, because that would be a good acquisition. He's playing backup to Mitch Trubisky. I think Fitzpatrick is the number 1 go-to because the Dolphins have already said they're sticking with Tua, but Fitzpatrick can still show energy, and he's a vet. He can play.
That's true. This is an interesting one.
All right, who is the number 1?
Derek Carr.
Huh. That's really interesting, actually.
Yeah, and they're saying this is an option because it looks like Gruden and Mayock. It's not only that they're not necessarily in love with the quarterback, but also that I think they need a little extra cap space or something.
I agree. Well, because they just made the huge payout, or they lost Khalil Mack to the Bears, and they gave some huge payouts last season that it's going to be really weird for any it's going to be weird for them to have to free up space, especially considering that they're kind of a contender.
I think they're going to start shifting towards using Mariota more and him getting back to his starter days with Tennessee when he used to be there. And I think they like working with him more than working with Derek Carr. But honestly, I think Derek Carr could be an interesting pick, an interesting acquisition. I think he has a good arm, he has a good work ethic, and even though he's had that groin injury, I still think he's worth that kind of trade.
I still think Derek Carr is like 40 years old because I keep thinking of David Carr, who played for the Texans.
Yeah, no, not David Carr.
Not David Carr. Much better. Okay, so real quick, I want to put this in here before we move on to our next part. And we will be podcasting again either later this week or early next week to get PJ in and take care of a lot of the news of stuff.
On
but
the New York side of things.
On the New York side of things. So that's why I'm leaving basketball out of tonight's program, except for one thing. But before I get to that, apparently each program with a Heisman Trophy finalist, so Alabama, Clemson, and Florida, have each been shipped a Heisman Trophy for the winner to hoist after the announcement. So
what
they've...
Go ahead. Someone doesn't give back their Heisman?
I don't know. That's something that I haven't thought about. So
I don't know why that's the first thing that came to my mind. Maybe because my brain is fried and it's still on crazy mode from last year. But I think that would be one of the funniest things and just a perfect college football thing where it's like I'm the true Heisman. No one's taking the statue away from me.
Yeah, right. So the only thing in NBA that I'm going to touch on is Steph Curry 62 points in a game after everybody, was saying, oh, he's, aged, he's over the hill, all this stuff. And Steph Curry responds by giving them a huge middle finger and saying, hey, here's 30 in two different halves. So Steph Curry is right now transcendent. He's on another level. But the Warriors are not looking good.
The Warriors didn't look good last season. They didn't look good the season before. It's just they finally lost all that talent, and they've not been able to make it up the way they thought they were going to. And I really don't think it was a good situation.
Well,
I don't think it's a good situation for them right now because I think I don't know, they've stopped being the attractive spot to go to.
I agree. And, it also comes at the heels of Klay Thompson having a massive injury. Now, I'm going to play a game that I like to call What's His Stats? And basically, I give you a player name, and I want you to give me their stats. Draymond Green on his career, what do you think he averages points, rebounds, and assists?
Points. Can I give you a range, or do you want as close a number as possible?
As close as possible.
All right, let's go with about 19 points per game.
Okay.
You said rebounds and assists, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Rebounds.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Rebounds is going to be, let's say 9 rebounds.
Okay.
13 assists. I know this is completely random.
13.
That's the best I can do.
13. Okay. So you guessed 19 points, 9 rebounds, and 13 assists. Do you want to stick with that 13 assists?
I'm not going to stick with that 13 assists.
Okay. What are you going to change it to?
You want to give me a hint?
Well, he's a power forward or a center. Sorry, he's a power forward. So.
Yeah. So let's go with.
I'm going to need an answer.
19.
19 assists? 19 per game.
Per game.
Yeah, per game. You think it's 19? It's low. It's low, dude. All right. Here's his total.
You must have misheard me. I said 9.
Oh, 9. Okay.
Yeah.
He averages 5 assists a game in his career, 7 rebounds, and 9 points. Now, at his peak, he averaged 14 points a game, 9.5 rebounds, and 7.5 assists with 1.5 steals and 1.5 blocks. This season, he's averaging 2 points, 4 rebounds, and almost 6 assists. Draymond is falling off. He's a non-factor. So right now, it's only Steph Curry. They have James Wiseman. They have Wiggins. They're just playing not good ball. They don't have a good team. So they've fallen off. Now, sorry, go ahead. One last thing before we move on to our next bit.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's insane that's how quickly champions fall off the hill, but they do. Everyone thought this was going to be one of those dynasties that was going to last for a while, and it's like this could be another Lakers, or this could be another Celtics or something. I'm just like, I knew I had my doubts just because of the diversity and the power and the talent that's in the league right now and spread out, especially these last 2 years where everyone has really started to diversify their teams, and there's no given about who's going to win.
Oh, absolutely.
And I like that. I think it's really good for the sport. I think it's really good for their fan bases to know that almost everyone has a chance. And I think it's great. And but yeah, the Warriors are not it right now, and I think it's going to take them a while to get back, because I think it's going to take some new, fresh star player, not just like, oh, he's an okay talent.
Well, they've got James Wiseman.
I know, but it's going to take some serious developed.
Yes, I agree. Now, anything that we've missed today, we're going to cover on our next podcast when we're joined by PJ. There's a lot of Knicks talk. There's some MLB that we're going to throw in. But before we get to the final thing that we do every episode, we're going to talk about the college football playoffs. Because this last weekend, we saw Notre Dame, ranked number 4, fall to Alabama. Final score of 31-14. So the tide rolled on that one. And then we saw number 3 Ohio State upset number 2 Clemson 49-28. Gerald, I know that you are a piggyback dog dookie Ohio State fan. And I would like you to know that I hate you, but I also would like to know your thoughts on these games. And right. Again, we will see in the final, we're going to see Ohio State versus Alabama.
Well, honestly, I had no doubts about Alabama and what they were going to do. They did it in a national championship. They are just, everyone's saying the history of Notre Dame is going to come back, and the Fighting Irish have no fight, okay?
Yeah, no fight.
Don't. This is a fluke, and they proved it. That's all it was. Honestly, that spot should have gone to A&M.
I agree with the spot should have gone to A&M, but I think Notre Dame did a very good job of showing that they belonged. They're a 10-1 team. If anything, I think Ohio State should have gotten in because they only played 6 games. A&M ran through the season. I know they played 9 games and they're 8-1, but they did better than Ohio. They played more. I know that they're not undefeated, but 6 games to make it into the national championship, I think it got them the legacy vote, and Ohio State got let in. But Notre Dame deserved to be there, and only losing by 2 touchdowns and a field goal to Alabama is incredible. Ohio State beat Clemson by 3 touchdowns. Notre Dame lost to Alabama by 17 points. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's still, I didn't have a doubt about what it was that Alabama was going to win. Honestly, I think they could have been saving their best stuff for the championship, which I think Nick Saban is smart enough to do.
I 100% agree. Yes.
Yeah. Now, in terms of the Clemson Ohio State game, Clemson did have a lead for a little bit as well. But also that was a rematch of last year's playoff game. And it was something, obviously revenge and grudge matches and all that.
Yeah, grunge matches. Yeah, you got you got Soundgarden, Pearl Jam out there fighting. Yeah. It's a grunge match.
Yeah. And honestly, it was meant to be a good game, and I think for a little bit it was. And then I'll be honest, that hit happened.
It's a good hit. It was a clean hit.
I agree with you on that, honestly, because I the more and more I thought about it, because in a moment, yes, I am an Ohio State fan. I'm just like, oh, that should be fouled, and we got that in, take advantage and everything.
Well, for those who haven't seen it, look up Justin Fields targeting, and you're going to find out what it was. Essentially, Justin Fields had the ball, and a defender was coming in to make a clean tackle. And then Justin Fields turned his back to the defender. And because of his turning motion, the defender had his helmet hit into Justin Fields, and they called that targeting. Even though at the original position, he just would have hit him with the shoulder. It really is a weird thing to look at, and people have their own opinions about it. Go watch it, find out for yourself. But keep going, Gerald. I apologize.
Right, but after that hitting the call and taking advantage of the situation, I know Ohio State the sideline got fired up, especially after setting that play and that penalty and that call set them up for a touchdown. And in pain, it would look to be a considerable amount of pain. Justin Fields went back out on the field and threw a good touchdown, and it showed a lot of grit, I think, and I think that motivated his teammates to keep going and try harder and try to win the best that they can.
Well, he threw for 6 touchdowns, so that motivation must have really been something.
I think honestly, I think it was, because I thought it would have been closer, but seeing your teammate basically wincing, still in pain because he just got hit, and throw the touchdown because that's how much the game matters to him. That'll fire you up, I think, and I think.
Oh, absolutely.
The team took to it and stuck to that, and really, showed the potential. Now, I can also say that this was attributed to the fact that they played basically half the season that Clemson played and weren't as tired and had more stored up energy anyway. But that's just the situation that we're in. Honestly.
Well, there was, those things definitely fire you up, and especially when seeing one of your teammates get hit, that it gets you. So in 2016, Minnesota's Jalen Waters, and then the week after that, Maryland's Isaiah Davis both targeted Big Toe Joe Julius of Penn State, the 5'11", 260-pound kicker. They targeted him helmet to helmet, and the stadium got fired up. I was at the Minnesota game when that happened, and everybody's out there, everybody's in the crowd just yelling, screaming, and we ended up trouncing them hard. So, it's something that comes when you feel like you have to defend your team. And Ohio State really, really rallied around that and came to, I would say, they would trounce Clemson.
Yeah, it was not expected to be that close.
It was a thorough drubbing.
It was. And now the national championship matchup that's been set up makes me excited.
Okay,
I've seen Ohio State.
Breaking news real quick. You were correct in what you said should happen. Alabama wide receiver Devontae Smith becomes third wide receiver to win Heisman, and the first since Des Howard in 91. So Alabama has another Heisman.
It's Alabama, man.
Roll Tide, I suppose. So with that, how do you see this final matchup coming down between Alabama and Ohio State?
Again, they are two different programs. They are. Alabama is this is like an uppercut you with the running game kind of team, and even though they have a great quarterback, clearly their receivers are where they really produce some incredible talents that are insane. They're hard to stop. From what I can tell, not just Ohio State, but the Big Ten is really a quarterbacks conference where I think they like to sling the ball around a lot more, and therefore each team is set up differently to try to win differently. Think long balls down the field for good running receivers who are going to catch the ball and run it into the end zone versus a good running back who's going to find an open lane and find an opening in the line and just really run it against you and push you out of the way as he goes.
Penn State might be an exception to that, though, because we love running the good 3-yard run pass option.
That is true.
Which is never, ever good. Pain.
But in essence, I think I'm taken back to the last time they played, and when it was the first time the college football playoff was implemented, and it was number 4 Ohio State versus number 1 Alabama, and everyone thought, okay, Alabama's got this. It's the Sugar Bowl. It's in Louisiana. It's in the South. They're going to take care of business and get this done. And then all of a sudden, what was it? At halftime, they were just about tied, but the first half was really beginning to look like Ohio State was being a lot more aggressive on the defensive side and doing a lot more to stop the run. And because they weren't used to using their pass game, they didn't have a very good, developed receiving core that could really match the secondary that they're so used to defending against in the Big Ten anyway. And they just took advantage of the fact that because they don't have that kind of mindset, they also don't have the best secondary, and really took advantage of that and beat them by about 20 points. I'm not exactly sure. It was like 40-something to 20-something, if I remember, during that Sugar Bowl. I don't think that's going to happen again. I think it's going to be much closer. I don't think it's going to be another situation like what happened to Clemson. I don't. But call it what you will. My personal bias, my personal beliefs, and just wishful thinking. But I do think Ohio State's going to win a national championship. They're going to pull something out of their ass. And
I will call that wishful thinking. I think this Alabama team is one of the best that we've seen, which is saying a lot considering it's Alabama. But Ohio State does have a good team this season. I don't think that they've seen enough action. So this will be a good test of grit on it, especially considering that one of the teams has the Heisman Trophy winner. So we're going to see if Ohio State secondary can lock down just any long balls by Mac Jones, and if they can stop the Heisman. But it's going to be a defensive effort by Ohio State to try to contain Alabama, and it's going to be the same by Alabama on that side to try to contain Ohio State. But I believe it will be a very high-scoring affair.
Yeah. So again, it's take the over.
Take the over.
Take the over. But yeah. But as we finish up, just want to put this back up here. Well-earned Heisman win for Devonta Smith, and hopefully good things to come in his future playing career. Honestly,
absolutely. I mean, and that winning a Heisman jacks up your draft stock. So we could see him go anywhere, somewhere that already has a young developing quarterback. Maybe the Bengals get him, because that would be an excellent pair.
Yeah, but good running back with a good quarterback. But then they also still need to fix the line.
Yeah, that's what I think that they're going to do in later rounds. But it'll be interesting seeing
who's maybe a team that's maybe even a contender who just could use another extra good running back. Maybe someone who's
he's a wide receiver. But
he's a wide receiver. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Maybe go to the Lions.
Yeah, but if they're looking to get rid of Matt Stafford, then they're going to be in full rebuild. I honestly,
I don't think they're trying. I don't think they're looking to get rid of him. I just think that's from the article that I mentioned earlier. That's
okay.
That's just an option that Washington has. That's something they can pull for.
Well, I'll tell you,
it would definitely take trading some of the better assets on the team for that.
I'll tell you what is. I believe that he's going to go to a team that already has a strong quarterback, but also did not perform way too well. So I could see Arizona picking him up, because they've got a middling pick. I don't think he's going to be drafted super high, but at the same time, he's not going to be like, a 30th pick. I think he's going to be around like, where the NBA draft lottery pick would be. Right. Atlanta could use him if they want to keep Matt Stafford, or not Matt Stafford. If they want to keep Matt Ryan, they're going to have Ryan, Julio Jones, or they're going to have Julio Jones. They're going to have Devontae, and then they already have another star wide receiver who's been out, but it's the Falcons, so I don't pay attention to him.
Right.
As you said, Detroit, that could be a good landing spot. Same with Minnesota, or even the Dallas Cowboys. They need more weapons. They have CeeDee Lamb, and he's been exceptional, but they need more weapons.
Yeah. I mean, how about also the Raiders?
The Raiders could absolutely pick him up. I don't see a reason why any team would want to. I think every team would want him, ideally, but there are better players at the position and to fill out anybody's team. So, like, Indianapolis is probably going to be drafting another offensive lineman, like we always do, because it works. Yeah. Or we're going to pick up a quarterback late in the first round and utilize him after Phillip. Well, that will do it for us, I believe. Again, congratulations,
Devontae Smith, yeah.
Devontae Smith, on that Heisman. But now we're going to get into the bit that we do every single episode, and that's the best player in a league by number. So there's, I guess, I don't know about soccer numbers, but we normally have 3 leagues, and we each go through one of them. I will take basketball on this, and then you can decide if you want baseball and football, because I'll take baseball if you don't want it.
Um, I'll take football.
Okay, then
I'll let you take baseball as yeah.
sounds good. Then we're gonna rotate it. So I'll start off, and then you go, and then I'll finish it off.
Right.
So for basketball, I think there's only one real good answer. I mean, you could say Kevin Garnett, you could say Dominique Wilkins, but when it comes down to, okay, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer, 15-time All-Star, 15-time All-NBA, 15-time All-Defense, won 2 MVPs, a Rookie of the Year, which is an award, but how about 3 Finals MVPs and 5 NBA championships? That's right, Timothy Theodore, the big fundamental, old man Riverwalk, Tim Duncan. This guy, maybe one of the best defensive I think he was the best defensive big man of all time. 15-time all defensive team, right? You could make an argument that he is the best player of all time. And the only reason why anybody would go against you is because, well, LeBron. But when you look at the stats, I have up his basketball reference, 19 points and 11 rebounds a game averaged. Shot 50% in his entire career. He's more than 25,000 points, more than 15,000 rebounds, which puts him in a 5-person club with that. And then he has more than 4,000 assists, and it's just Tim Duncan, Kareem, and Wilt. And that's all you got. So Tim Duncan, the best number 21, only ever wore 21 and wore it for one team his whole career.
You can't argue with that. Okay.
Big fundamental.
All right. For me, I could have gone with Eric Allen or LaDainian Tomlinson.
GOAT.
However, there's only one to choose. What is it? Is it 8 o'clock yet? It's 8:08.
Yeah, 8:08. It's Bob time.
Fuck.
It's Bob time, man.
You know what else? What else you can call this hour? 8 o'clock.
Oh no.
It's prime time.
Prime time. Deion
Sanders. 17 seasons, 53 interceptions, 10 defensive touchdowns, 9 return touchdowns over the course of his career. 2-time Super Bowl champion, went to 8 Pro Bowls, and was named first American All-Pro 9 times, despite concurrently dabbling in a professional baseball career.
GOAT.
I mean, that's fucking GOAT, all right? Can't argue with that. Deion Sanders, prime time, best NFL player to wear number 21.
I'm actually going to change my mind on the best NBA player to wear 21, and it's J.R. Smith.
No.
GOAT.
Absolutely not.
I need to see actually which team he wore 21 for, because he didn't wear it for the Knicks. I think he wore like 6. Oh, he wore 21 for the Lakers this season, dude. Prime time. You got to get to prime time. And then number 21, it might be one of the best jersey numbers across sports, because I have for you a guy who only ever got to hit 3,000 hits on the nose. MVP. Hall of Famer. 2 World Series, 12 Gold Gloves, World Series MVP, but died age 38 in a plane crash. Roberto Clemente, one of the greatest players of all time, up there with Barry Bonds for best Pirates of all time. I would even, give the best Pirate to Roberto Clemente because he played his entire 18-year career with them. But, as I said, it was cut short by his untimely death. So, Roberto Clemente, rest in peace, best number 21 in baseball.
Yeah, and he did it doing something he loved too. He was doing humanitarian trips to Latin American countries. So
yeah, I think he was in or near Puerto Rico, back at his homeland. So, Yeah, that's our top three. If you disagree with what we said, then don't, I guess, or you can comment.
Or you can
But
comment.
uh,
By the way, I just want to make it before we sign off. I want to make something. You and me got to make sure this happens.
okay,
We're at episode 21, right?
yeah,
And we're gonna most likely do our show episode 22 on Friday,
correct, yeah,
and then hopefully that means next week is episode
23.
23.
Well, 22 is. I already have my 22, and I know what sport I'm going with.
That's fair. But for 23, we have
Julius
to-
Randle,
There you go.
the GOAT.
We have to force PJ to do the NBA.
Well, because then he's got to pick.
Then he's got to pick.
He's got to pick.
His loyalties will not even loyalties, but he's got to pick, and there's only one option.
I mean, Julius Randle. I need to double check that Julius Randle. No, he wears number 30. Who wears number 23 on the Knicks?
Two
Wait,
players,
actually,
apparently.
yeah, they had two players wearing 23.
Yeah, that was funny.
Oh, Mitchell Robinson. He's going to pick Mitchell Robinson as the GOAT, number 23. But the 23 episode should be interesting, and we'll put PJ to that test. If you've watched to this point, then I'm assuming you like the video. So you can click like, subscribe if you want, comment, do that whole thing, whatever. Don't matter. As always, I've been Corey.
And I've been Gerald.
And this has been the Wacky Wednesday edition, even though it is a Tuesday edition
That's what makes it wacky.
That's what makes it wacky, dude. It's not even Wednesday. This has been our Taco Tuesday edition of the We Talk Sports podcast. And we will catch you hopefully on Friday, joined by PJ Dolan, and we'll talk about a whole lot of Knicks.